listening tonight. I got a feeling that the cards just ain't right. I'm so salty, must not give in to rage. And I'm wondering what those rollers will say. Scarves to the left of me, cheaters to the right. Here I am, gonna roll a derby tonight. Gonna roll a derby tonight. Gonna roll a derby tonight.
It's 2019! Happy New Year, all of you scrubs out there. And once more, we are the Hidden Center Roller Derby. I'm Simcof, and I'm joined by my co-host, Remedy, aka Glen.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to the 12.5R format, where we just have two hosts this week.
Yeah, it appears everybody else is on holidays doing their own thing. So it's just Glenn and I today. But we didn't want to miss any more episodes than we need to any more time. I think it's been about 2 weeks. We've all been doing our own things. I've been over in Perth visiting family, and I'm sure the rest of the rollers have been doing whatever they've been doing.
Yeah, it's been a busy time of year, but there's been lots happening in the L5R world, regardless of Christmas and New Year's. Yeah, so I guess, over the break, Ben, a lot happened. Do you want to talk a bit first about, tournaments and other things that have been going on?
Well, yeah, sure. So I guess before we get to the tournaments, it's been not quite a year. I think like 9 months we've been doing this podcast experiment, and we all seem to be having a fun time, and there are numbers of people who download this. There's more than one. More than just my mum. Hi, mum. So I think we've decided we're going to keep the love, and we're going to keep doing it for the rest of 2019. We want to make it bigger and better. So we had a little bit of time, I guess, over the holidays to have a chat and think about some of the goals that we want for next year. And over the last couple of months, there's been some stuff in the works that we haven't been able to announce yet, which we're getting pretty close to doing. Some pretty exciting projects. But I thought, we might just talk about, what do we like and what we thought we could improve on. One of the big things is we're going to be bringing in a lot more guests. We got some good responses from the guest shows, I guess, and we want to try and not just the tournament sort of champions, which are always fantastic guests, but reach out to folks like Jadiel, and, we'll probably have, something to do with a craft episode. We've got quite a few locals, and we know there are some folk internationally that might join us too. Have a bit of a panel on, how, I guess, all of the cool bling that you see. And, there's a lot of local tournaments where stuff gets made, like prize support, like really custom stuff. So there's a few locals that do that, and a few folk across in Sydney as well. So we might eventually have them on. And any sort of goals for you, Glenn? Any sort of guests you'd love to see, or anything amazing you'd love to see happen with this podcast?
I think already in 2018, just having that variety of guests, whether it be tournament organizers, or even the world champion, just trying to the aim of the podcast is really to try and capture, every aspect of the game, and really more broadly the IP. More so than just the competitive card game that we all enjoy here on the podcast. I know, Ben, you're really interested in the RPG also. And with regards to the art, I guess it's just been astounding to see what we saw last year. Even I think CanCon kind of set the tone for fan-made art, and It only got better. It only got better throughout the year. So so hopefully coming up we can try and arrange those sort of things, as well as try and give our listeners some international perspectives, not only from the US and UK, but more broadly also.
Yeah, absolutely. We've also got a collaboration with the Jade Throne that we'll be able to announce shortly.
Well, they jumped the gun, mate. They've already announced it.
Oh,
there's already well, this is news to Ben, but Jade Throne. I'm an avid listener. I listen when it comes out.
Yeah.
There will be an upcoming Jade Throne versus Hidden City Rollers tournament that we're trying to work. It's more of a fun celebration of the game than it is a beatdown. That I'm sure. I think Bert's our team coach, and so
Yeah,
he'll be
he
guiding
needs to
us to trying to give a good performance against the US meta. I think right now my plan is to try and make us all play Lion, because I think that's going to be the best approach. And all bid one meta. We'll be bidding one Jade Throne, just so you guys all know. Those sort of things are in the work. I think we're just going to try and do some more community outreach also. And it's just more to try and advocate for that sort of thing. There's been a lot in the community already. With is it the Proving Grounds, or what's the tournament that the Kickstarter?
The Province Grounds.
Province there. That sounds really exciting, and we're hoping to see that kick
Province
in.
League. I apologize.
Yes, the Province League. Yes. So it's just great to see these community initiatives, and we hope to be a part of that moving into 2019.
Yeah. So what we'll do is, starting from next week, as soon as tournament start, I guess, we're going to start having, I guess, a tournament spotlight of the week. So we'll pick a tournament and, that happened the week before, and, we'll talk through, what happened, who entered, and, talk a little bit about, where it was hosted and how it all went down, just to kind of, I guess, highlight different sorts of experiences, because we tend to focus, as do, a lot of the other podcasts. It makes sense that we'd focus on the big events and, the giant Kotes and Grand Kotes and Gen Cons, etc. And they're fantastic, and we will always, shine a spotlight on those things, but it's nice to give, local tournaments time in the sun. Probably the first few we'll do will be, Australian based, just because same time zone. We know the folks, it'll be a bit easier to kind of get access to those local tournaments. But, in the future, we'd like to, highlight from wherever our listeners are. So if you are a listener, feel free to email us at hiddencityrollers@gmail.com if you have a tournament upcoming, and we'd love to feature you on our show. Cool. So lots of big stuff, lots of excitement, and I think more than ever we're going to grow and try to make sure that we put our episodes out consistently on the same day. We've been a little bit off. We'll mostly be putting them out, sort of midnight Wednesday Australian time. But we'll see if we can get that down to a bit of a fine art. And, I think when people have the expectation that an episode comes out at a certain time, it's a lot easier for their commutes to plan their podcast listening.
Really, what we've been doing is we've been FFG, and we're going to try really hard to move away from promising dates and then not delivering. And we're going to try and deliver those dates moving forward.
Yeah. I get the picture that the little speech that, well, not little, it was quite an in-depth interview, a fantastic interview that Tyler had down in Madrid, where he talked about the January date for Coat, as well as Children of the Emperor, or Empire, I should say, and all the other upcoming releases. I think he may have jumped the gun a bit, and maybe that's why there wasn't an official release. But alas, looks like early Feb now, right?
Yeah, I think with anything FFG, it's just always great when we get product, and we're always excited to get it. And sometimes, just because I like to, in quotes, say they're a small indie company, they can sometimes just delay their products a bit. It's not something new. It's just an unfortunate part of the company. But that being said, the product itself is exciting, and so I'm sure we can all wait a few weeks. And it also means that there's a stable meta for the upcoming competitive Kotais, both in Cork and Phoenix, I believe.
And it is a different meta to Worlds. So even though no new cards have come out, it is actually a different environment, because there's different roles and obviously a different restricted list.
Yes, and I think that fundamentally will shift the meta. The Voltron sort of approach, just with the Fate Worse Than Death in that list, it makes for a more dynamic game, I think.
So do you think that means that Voltron's essentially got buffed, and so, Crab with Fight On and Dragon will kind of very likely to put in some pretty big results?
I'm not exactly sure. I just think that maybe like Finger of Jade loses a bit of value. It gains value in other ways, but that card hitting the list really kind of has made Scorpion players rethink. I guess I'm not in the Scorpion chat, but you might be able to comment if there's been a shift in attitude there. But it definitely makes me as a Crab player feel a bit more confident, and especially Lion and Unicorn. I don't know about you, but playing them now, you can kind of go really hard on the military, and it's a lot harder to be punished.
I think what I'd say about the Scorpion chat, and also just talking to fellow Scorpions, is we all have very bold, big opinions on these, and we're all absolutely wrong. I think the thing is that the Fate Worse Than Death, more than a balance change, it's a meta shift, right? And I think you're right when you're saying that, like, the whole game now has changed, right? So because Scorpion don't have that tool, and other clans were splashing it, but really, because Scorpion don't have that tool, they aren't the tier 1 powerhouse they've been for a long time. And so because they're not the tier 1 powerhouse, you'll still see them, but the likes of Dragon and Crab, who just really stack a bunch, and Unicorn now too, who stack a bunch of stuff on a single unit. Usually the idea of pulling out a dude with 2 fate and just attacking blind into a Scorpion player who's got four or more fate seemed really, really dumb, right? But now that's a thing where you're not worried as much anymore. So therefore, I think that the Scorpions aren't going to fare as well. Therefore, you've got all these other factions which are likely to be far more successful. So you're going to have to start metaing against Unicorn, metaing against Crab, metaing against Dragon, which is a little different. People have done that and they've got their game plans, but I think you've got a little bit more flex now. Maybe you don't need to run 3 fingers in every deck. Maybe you don't have to put 5 fate on a character. Maybe it's still a good idea. I don't know. But I think you can get away now with putting 3 fate on a dude and bring it out if you're going to tower it. What are your thoughts, Glenn?
Yeah, definitely. I think Crab can go back to their tower strategy pretty reasonably. I don't think the Dragon doesn't really care regardless. I think that they're fine. I just think that Lion and Unicorn, and even to an extent Crane, can kind of do their more, sort of small guy pokes and get those sneaky breaks now more than before. I think Fate Worse Than Death leaving the meta just meant that there's now a real cost to defending conflicts as opposed to just having a very clear answer to a problem. There's a more finesse line of play that the Scorpion player has to make, whether it be Kachiko or a Cunning Magistrate or some sort of defensive tool that costs about the same, but has less of a overall impact to the turn.
Well, I think contrasting, sort of similar to that, but I think there's a contrasting level of discipline you need in your game as a Scorpion player. I think previously, whilst it seems pretty simple, save 4 fate, play Fate Worse Than Death, do all right. The idea that when you're defending a particular province, you've got this really, really simple answer. It is a simple answer, but the challenge the Scorpion players had and what kind of separated the good from the great was that ability to manage your fate, right?
Yeah.
So that you could build up to the point where, when you're playing against good Scorpion players, they make it seem really easy because they just seem to always have a Fate Worse Than Death and always have just a floating, 7, 8 fate just hanging around at all times, right? But to actually, the skill, I think, in playing Scorpion was making sure that you could be disciplined in the way you manage your fate. You didn't overspend, you just ignored the dynasty phase, even though you really, really wanted to bring out those characters. And, in general, try to make sure that you had the fate available to play your Fate Worse Than Death and other simple answers, like big answers like that. Whereas now, the maths are, you've actually, if you're playing Seeker as well, you end up having a bunch of floating fate anyway. So what do you do with it? If you're not going to use Fate Worse Than Death, now you've got complicated defenses. And you have to think through your lines.
Ben. You've got blackmail. That's what you've got.
There's blackmail. Is that a straight swap, do you think? Just 3 Fate Worse Than Deaths out, chuck in your 3 blackmails, that's it.
So it can be. There's a lot of times now where I'm less honorable and I just realize that blackmail could be in the deck and it would solve a lot of issues. But I think the other thing to talk about with the Fate Worse Than Death change is that because Against the Waves came off the list,
yeah,
it's kind of shifted the way Shugenjas are played again, which made it really exciting. And so back to your point about saving all your fate, you can now save it and spend it on more spells or characters that you do want to stick around. And you could try a Shugenja approach in Scorpion, for instance, with Against the Waves. I'm just really glad that card's off the restricted list. It was always a fun card that was a bit of a niche, ready or bow.
Yeah.
And I think it's good that it's back in the game.
I thought what was really interesting, we had just before we all wound up for the year, we had a final rollers card night just up the road from my place, and it was very interesting because we had 3 different people that hadn't talked to each other about the decks they were bringing before we got there, and they all bought unicorn decks that were running 3 Fish Boys and 3 Against the Waves.
I think it was like 39 out of like 41 cards were the exact same.
That's...
we basically had built the same deck, which is exciting because it meant that we all had the similar thoughts.
Well, I can't claim unique thought. I just asked Frotop for his best unicorn deck, and
there you go.
Here's 2 options.
maybe we all secretly, like, subconsciously saw that deck list and then copied it. But I think that deck's a lot of fun. The attachment issue is still there, but
I think we all immediately saw the value.
Fun, right?
Oh
yeah, it's just so much fun to have Shahai and just load her up with all the Machedo attachments for free, or Kadaka, because you can put them onto neutral characters, which is awesome. And then just Force of the River. Like, I think I Force of the River 3 times in one conflict. So I was like, this is like Satoshi level sort of filtering of my Dynasty deck.
I do think that there's going to be a lot of Force of the Rivers played over the coming months. I think that's going to become a very popular core card in Unicorn. Can it fit in other decks?
Yeah, I was trying it in Lion for a bit, running suboptimal.
So that Lion Dynasty, that Lion Shugenja Dynasty, do you want to talk to me about that?
The Shugenja Dynasty. So isn't there's only 3, right? There's Kudaka.
Yeah.
I guess you could run it on a Mere Mystic, but you're not going to get full value there. You can put them on the Spirit Collars, and that's actually not a bad idea because they're not really contributing anything else.
It gives them a reason after they're being clouded.
Yeah, exactly. So like your clouded Spirit Collar can still bring out, the spirits of 4 people that happen to be cavalry. So that's quite exciting. I think there's also that 2 coster. I don't know the name, and I don't dare to pronounce it, but it's a 1/2, and it doesn't bound if you lose the conflict.
Oh, the Tireless Citizen?
Yeah. But again, it's assassinatable. I don't think there's any 4-cost Shugenja yet. But it's definitely Kudaka or Spirit Caller. It's something to worth explore, because I remember there was a few Lion players trying the Support of the Phoenix back in an elemental cycle, so that might be worth exploring too. The point being that I think the upcoming Kotais, I'm not exactly sure what if I was going, I wouldn't know what to expect, to be honest. I think I'd just try and get reps in with a deck that I know, and then try and tweak it to the meta. Whether that be Yogo Kikyo or not is a different question. And if Bert was here, I think he'd say that's a bad card, and so it's not worth running.
We'll see.
I mean, it's exciting times. I think it's great, to be honest, perfectly, that I think that there's 2 Kotais in this meta, because I like that there's these big tournaments in all the different metas, which is why it's going to be really nice when there's a pack every month, essentially. So the meta will always be shifting for these tournaments, as opposed to sort of predefined eras of the game that we had in 2018.
Okay, so definitely agree with you around the idea that because there's not. I mean, I think people are starting to realize the power of Crab with Fight On being added to that deck, and Dragon is strong, and Unicorn are really starting to be potent. And I think there's a lot of clans that have, real contenders to win Kotais at the moment. in this current meta. So I think I totally agree with you. If I was going to one of these co-days, I'd be picking a deck like yesterday, probably like last week, and just grinding that one deck. It doesn't really matter what the deck is as long as it's vaguely viable, and just get reps in, because I think familiarity with spots is going to be far more important than having that like specific cheese surprise card or cheese strategy. I think like just play a deck that you like and play it a lot, and then I think that's going to give you your best shot in these tournaments at the moment. We're not up to that point where we have a well-established meta in this sort of weird little micro environment.
Yeah. That being said, if you can sneak in a sneaky good omen or a contingency plan, I do advocate for that. It's always nice to surprise your opponent with some cards that they may not be expecting.
Well, contingency plan, I mean, to be fair, is Palumbo just won the most recent Discord League, and the Global Discord League, and he did win it with a contingency plan. That was the final card play for Season 11 of the Discord League.
Would you agree that that's probably one of the most thematic moments of 2018?
It is. I mean, it's been dominated by contingency plan. If you look back through all of the tournaments, it's just everyone's running triple contingency plan.
I think it's more like, I need to win this game. What's my backup plan? Oh, I've got the card that tells me that it's my backup plan.
Yeah.
No thought. There's no thought to have.
What I do like is that he did, like Palumbo did, he's been tweaking that deck for a long time, and I think he's finally had, a result with it, like a good, strong result in terms of winning a tournament. And so it's good to see that. And it was a deck that I think wasn't necessary. It took a while for it to get the respect that it now deserves, because I think Keeper Scorpion was definitely seen as the lesser of the Scorpion archetypes. But, he's done very, very well with it. I think...
Just with that, Ben, do you think that Discord over 2018 for L5R was a big contributor to what made it great?
Yeah.
I think having that online community and those leagues especially kind of elevated the game for me, because you were able to watch wherever you are in the world, whether it be on YouTube or in the reports on the Discord, and you could see these top players showcase their decks that they've been refining, and just sort of learn more about the game, as well as appreciate what these top deck builders are doing and piloting it to success.
Yeah, and I think not only with the global, but also the local Discord leagues. I know that joining in the Australian Discord league's been fantastic as well, because there's a whole, bunch of players who play in the Australian Discord league that have got their own unique set of skills and are, quite a force to be reckoned with, and they're disconnected from the global environment. So when they do quite well there, you actually are learning new things, because I think the Global Discord League shows the best of the best, but you end up getting this sort of converging, not groupthink, but like a converging best of breed sort of deck choices. So if you end up looking at, the top 32 or top 64, there tends to be, 3 decks that are played by a lot of people. Where, if you look at the way that, Stovey has been dominating with Lion in the Australian Discord League, that certainly wasn't something that was happening globally, and it's a lot of fun. And I think that you can also look at, I know there's Ray, shout out to Ray, who's been posing questions at us all last year and been a highlight of the podcast letter section for 2018. He has a British passport and was playing in the England Discord League, and he was having a ball over there, and he says the games are quite a bit different there too. So you kind of get, a taste of all the world, and it is fun. I think Discord's been a great tool for connecting everybody together, and just thankfully we've got folk like Luke and Krytos and Mind's Desire and all of the other folk, and I think for those of you, if you actually look at announcements section on the Global Discord League, there's actually a really good post that the guy who runs it, whose name oh, here we go, what's his name? His name is Ikoma Chusei, aka Seabass. He kind of did a big rundown of everything that the Global Discord channel achieved over the last year and what they're looking to do next year. And I'm not going to go over it in detail here. You can read it, but it's absolutely fantastic. He's they did like a whole survey, like to see what people are responding to, what's worked, what hasn't, and it's been really positive. So, and they're about to have their own podcast, the Global Discord League, which is going to be alternating between the LCG and the RPG. I don't know if they're going to touch on the CCG because the there's a whole section. I don't know. Have you ever looked at all the other channels inside the Global Discord League?
I'm notorious. I'm always on the other LCGs because I play all the other FFG games. Apparently, Warhammer Conquest is still going. They just released a new deluxe, so there was people talking about that. And there's a bit of Keyforge talk also. I think what's interesting is I recently told a new player about the Discord.
Oh yeah,
and this is Dave in Ringwood, and he just immediately jumped into it. And he's signed up for the Global League. He's in a pod with you guys. It's just exciting to see sort of the online community see a lot of growth, because sometimes you hear a lot of naysayers say, that the game's kind of hitting a stagnating phase, and maybe objectively that's true, but it's exciting just to get new players hooked into the game. And get them connected with the community in a way that's meaningful. And I think Discord is one of those ways. Because sometimes at your local night, you can connect, but it can be hard to maintain that connection, I guess I'd say. Whereas Discord and having online forums to bounce deck ideas, and Bushi Builder's been a great contributor to that also. It was really great in 2018.
I actually found it also, just as somebody who travels a little bit, a great way of connecting with folk, because there's all these localized Discord and Facebook to an extent groups and servers that are not part of necessarily the global server, but they're their own ones. So there's an Australian Discord server. So anyone who listens to this from Australia or is thinking about visiting Australia, just Google Australian Discord League or ask on the Hidden City Rollers Facebook page, which you should obviously be liking and be a friend of. And they'll shoot you the invite. And that's the Australian Discord League's great community too. We've got our own little clan channels and our spoilers channel, and we've got our Discord League channel. So we've got a lot of community talk that goes on there, and that's a lot of fun.
We've got a special channel for the Saltamoto for Lion players. So there's a chat room for Bert to have rants when he wants to as well. So if anyone wants him in those, please head over to the Australian Discord.
We actually have a Dirty Pirate Scum, which is a Mantis channel. So I think Australia has always had quite an affinity for the Mantis clan. So there's a lot of Mantis clan fans still hanging out, just waiting for Yoritomo to have his own faction card.
He's waiting for that full art Yoritomo that's coming in season 4 kit.
Hey, well, you could get gold Yoritomo or silver Yoritomo.
I've got the silver ones. Thank you. Thanks to a friend over in America.
I don't remember your worlds, but anyway.
I don't remember myself being there either.
I sometimes have fun in the traditional games section. I'm a bit more of a lurker than a contributor, but I do have my own Go set, and I used to be a bit of a Go guy, and I have a strategy book on Shogi, but have never actually played a game of Shogi. So I've read about it, but not dipped my toes in the water.
Yeah, so it's good that there's, I guess, you can find common connections and engage in that way. You can also, there's the rules section and the deck building section. It was just a very good tool, I thought, in 2018.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think since our last show, there has been 1,000 spoilers dropped. And you've probably heard some of the podcasts talk about the different cards. But I think it's tradition that every podcast can talk about these cards. I've got some very strong feelings on some of these cards. So, Glenn, did you want to drive us through these huge log of previews?
Okay, yep. So we'll just get straight into it. So, Ben, there was, and for listeners, there was an announcement a few weeks ago that probably everyone's familiar with regarding the Lion cards and the Phoenix cards. And so the first card they announced in that article was the Kiku Matsuri province. which is a festival trait 4-strength province of the air element, and it has an action. During a conflict at this province, choose a participating character controlled by each player. Honor each of those characters. Ben, before we talk about this card, do you want to talk about the ruling regarding can I trigger this if I already have an honored character?
Okay, yeah. So what's quite important, this card is actually functionally different from Shameful in some minor ways, right? Actually, some major ways. So there is some strange ruling here. So the card prior to the dash says, during a conflict at this province, choose a participating character controlled by each player. And then dash, honor each of these characters. So the costs are pre-dash, which is choose a participating character controlled by each player. And then the effect is honor each of these characters. So if you go to your rules reference guide, you'll find that there's a whole bunch of there's all these steps on targeting. So when the card asks you to target, you must choose valid targets, right? And look, check out the RRG, but the output of this is you have to choose 2 characters that can be honored, right? And so that means if they've already got the honored state, they can't further be honored, right? Before you can activate this card. So essentially, you can't choose, their guy that's already honored and your guy that's not, and get a cheap honored guy. It's very technical.
But what you can do is you can honor them and then mark of shame them, and then you get the full value for 2 fate and a province action.
There's the joke.
Does that sound like value? Does that sound like value?
Well, that sounds like a way to make it work, right? It's kind of a workaround, but I think that's the first time I've heard a good use of this. I get, to me, I think Kiku Matsuri on first glance seems like an absolute pile of hot garbage. But there was this quote, Warren Zevon, who's a late amazing singer-songwriter. Fantastic songwriter, and he's written some big hits. Hit Somebody was one of my favorites. But anyway, he said he says every sandwich. He always likes to enjoy every sandwich, find the goodness in every sandwich, right? And so what you really mean by that is whatever your experience is in life, whatever card and whatever horrible text is written on it, try to find the value in it, right? So try to enjoy it, experience it. And I think if we look at Kiku Matsuri, I was trying to figure out, all right, how is this useful? And I was thinking, well, I guess if Lion Honor or some sort of honor decks ever become a thing, it's kind of a very inefficient way of gaining 1 honor. I think Crane have a bunch of cards, they've got 2 cards that require people to be honored. I'm sure that's a theme that will continue. But it still seems pretty inefficient.
No, like there's so many ways you can utilize this. So you could honor both characters, right? And then you could blackmail that character and move it to your side. And so then you have 2 honored characters and they have 0. And so then you turn off Voice of Honors. Or you can sacrifice that honored character. You're just winning the political conflict by a whole heap now because you now have 2 honored characters.
Now, is this a spot where peasants can become valuable?
Yes, right? Yeah, I know that's awesome too. Like high glory characters that you already were going to honor.
Yep.
You honor for a free effect. The thing is, you got to look at it in the context of that you're trading this honor effect for a fate or a card, because that's what Manicured and Fertile were offering you prior to this. I think there's got to be a way where the honored status on both doesn't really matter so much because you then take advantage of it. Or
I think that's a really good way of looking at value, right? So to consistently, because there's 4 provinces, if you think you would prefer to consistently honor a character on rather than if you think that is higher value than what you'll get off a fate or on average off a random card in your deck, then this has probably got a spot. But yeah,
I think more importantly, it's the consideration of, can I now give up Shameful Display for Pilgrimage or in Phoenix's case, Korimori, for an effect that gives both me and my opponent a benefit. I think that would be the way I'd see it. So like if they go in with a low glory character and you block with your high glory character,
Probably
you can
a
make it work. I think
public
we're
service announcement that Opium Wastrel is pretty sure it's one influence. So that could be maybe splashed in Phoenix, like Old Box Phoenix or something. So Opium Wastrel or Westrel, I should say, for those of you who forgot, is a 1-cost peasant from Scorpion Clan that, as a reaction to entering play, is you choose a participating character in a conflict, and their glory is considered 0 for the rest of the conflict till the end of the conflict. So
well,
I mean,
that's a really great way. That's a really great way to address it, because then you could take the value away from them for having that honor token.
And I guess it's a hard counter versus KB versus KB.
Yes, yeah. Well, I mean that too, right? So like, if that box becomes quite oppressive, this is one way to kind of remove that honor token. Yeah, I think it's quite an interesting province. And I think
maybe it's
it'd be
tech.
fun to explore. Yeah, like I think I've been trying Ride in the Streets more again, and I know everyone laughs at that province, but in Lion, when you go full Bushi build, it actually works the majority of the time.
Do you run it on your box, or do you actually run it on your row?
No, I run it on the box.
Yeah.
And then trigger Matsu Bayona so that she sticks around, because you got 3 Bushi.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, so this is exciting province, and I think you're right. I think we're trying to make it work. We're trying to enjoy each sandwich, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I think the effect's stronger than what others may consider it. So moving on. So with that in mind, we're going to explore a few 2-costers, I think, Ben. That seems to be the theme of this box, is the 2-coster box. So we're going to talk about Lion Clan. So as listeners know, we're a lion-friendly clan. We're very pro the Lion Clan. And so let's talk about Ikoma Orator. He's a 2-cost character, Dynasty. He's a 2-1 stat line, Ben. He has the Courtier trait and 1 glory. His ability says, while you are more honorable than an opponent, this character gets 2 political. And his theme text is, I could go on for hours, and I will.
Oh yes, he will.
It sounds like a crap. It sounds like a crap clan. Like
So-
you just reprieve him, and it's just like, I will be here for 2 hours.
I
and he
do
will
like
play.
the idea that all of the lion, even their courtiers, they're just these boastful wankers. Like, they're just very loud and full of themselves. Like the main event guy, and like now we've got this orator.
He's got a stash. He's got a stash to like back it up too.
Oh.
He knows what he's doing in the art. So do we want to quickly? This will broadly cover the line spoilers to come. Do we want to talk about the more honourable theme? Where do you think that sits in the? Where do you think that sits in the game right now, Ben?
Oh, I think it's trash at the moment, but it could become something. I think that, in the past, when we've seen, because I guess the advantage of the old box of Lion is they do start a single honor point ahead of everybody else. So as long as you're not against the Scorpion Clan old box, it means that generally speaking, for the first couple of turns, and definitely the first turn, if you really want the more honourable condition to be true, you can. Now, there are some effects like Venerable Historian, which are huge, right? I think, that can be a massive swing. Like, that 1 2-cost character threatens a province, and anytime you get to a skill threatens a province, it's great. Problem I've got with the Orator is the only provinces that the Orator threatens when he if he's got his +2 political skill, are ones you generally don't want to break, right? Like, I threaten public authority, so now I can't poke.
Yeah.
So I think there's a few problems with that card in particular.
Do you think the cost is? Do you think the cost is just a bit too high? Also, in that it's a condition that's not always going to be consistent, and so the stat line of 2-1 is just a little bit underwhelming for what most players will want in their 2-cost lineup.
I think it's less about the cost being too cheap or too expensive, but I think there's different things you're looking for in a 1-coster and a 2-coster. In a 2-coster, I think either it needs to be able to threaten a province, like very simply, it needs to be able to threaten a province. right? Brass Samurai is a great example of that. Cautious Scout has a very powerful ability. Or it needs chunky stats, right? And this thing doesn't threaten some rigged ability like your Soshi Illusionist. But I don't think the Orator has either, because 3 doesn't. You need that magic number 4, in my opinion. Yeah.
Do you know how it works for if you duel this guy and then you become more honorable? His stat line gets the +2 before you resolve the duel, right?
Yeah,
because the honors exchanged after the bids are shown.
They've been through that with one of that Scorpion guy.
Yeah,
that nobody
so
plays.
I don't know. I think he unfortunately won't see play. There's just too many others. But I guess moving on with this more honorable theme, the Lion Clan also got a 4-cost character called Matsu Suko. She's a 4-cost 4/3 with 2 glory. She has Bushi, Berserker, Daimyo traits, and her action is during a conflict in which this character is attacking. If you are more honorable than your opponent, reduce the cost of the next card you play this conflict by 2. What do you think of this card, Ben? I think it's one of the nicest stat lines for the line, 4-cost, in my opinion. Do you have any thoughts on this card?
I think I agree. The stats are good, but what it actually means is a fundamental shift in the way you would play a lion, because the ability is not. It's not like a Taturi ability or an Ujiaki or an Honor General where it's really, really explosive, so you want to charge them out. Suko, you don't really want to charge out. You actually want her to stick around. I feel like, you could get... If you keep her in play for a few turns, then you can actually get some decent value off her, right? Like 2 turns and you potentially are saving 4 fate, which is pretty strong. But in general... At the moment, I think traditionally line decks haven't bought out, they don't tower. And so maybe that's what they might start trying now. They might decide to have a very different playstyle. None of their boxes really help them with towering. Like, they're made to be wide, both boxes. So I think this character could be good when there's a new box that's more relevant to her. At the moment, I think it doesn't really fit with any of the boxes, so you just have to play a completely different style of deck.
I think she's actually quite terrifying, because I think you can have her at home, and play. What I've been testing lately is playing the seal of the lion,
right?
And you give her the commander trait, and then you even the odds. These characters with high glory into conflicts, so that then she becomes a 6/5.
So you're putting fate on her, right?
Good. Yeah. And then you run even the odds.
So this is what I'm saying. It's a very different playstyle, which is maybe good, because maybe she's one of the characters that enable this very different way of playing line.
I think it's just because I'm playing line like that crab. I'm just like, okay, we'll go this 4-coster with like 3 fate and just see where we go. I think it's important to remember she's a berserker, right? So you can start messing around with the wicked subos, and that's just a really strong card to put on her. And then you can mess around with bringing weapons back from the discard pile, or using Time of War, or the armory.
Free J Tetsubos, right?
Yeah, you can do that too, and you pay 0, which is just, that's a bit of a surprise. It's just the cost can sometimes turn 1 against Scorpion. They'll just tap their box, and then what do you do? That's the question, really. What do you do?
Maybe there's a feature card that answers that question.
Well, is there a card? Maybe you play Levy. Like, maybe the idea is that you do this crab slash and you run Levy to get the honor back. So they box you, and then for some reason the Scorpion player has spent all their fate, so you play Levy.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I think. There's the Akoma Prodigies who give you an honor during the Dynasty phase, and and I think Lion will tend to bid lower. So and I think so I think there's ways where that you can have that condition to be on most of the time, and maybe it turns out Scorpion spam matchup for you. Have to wait and see. But it is exciting, I guess, to have a new archetype. Maybe she is the character that creates a new archetype for Lion.
Yeah, I think she's definitely a step in the right direction. I guess bouncing off that, we'll just quickly cover it. What do you think of the 3-cost event that's called Glorious Victory? It has some beautiful old tutorial art that Bert has on his playmat.
So jealous.
The ability is reaction. After you break a province during a military conflict, honor each character you control.
Well, I think it's not related at all to the previous card.
No, well, it is. Well, you can reduce the cost by 2.
I guess you can make it cost 1.
Yes. Yeah, similar with like Cav Reserves or Fate Western Death or Blackmail or any of those big 3-cost or 4-cost events.
So maybe Suko actually makes it playable.
Yes, I think for 3, I think the effect currently is not good enough. But I think it's an interesting card that if you could discount it, it'd be quite exciting.
So
I think, yeah.
I'm just thinking through this, right? So in a keeper deck, right? So I'm just looking at the timing. That's after you break a province, but you don't get your keepers until after the province is broken, do you?
Yes. No, until you claim the ring.
Yeah.
So I think some people have already talked about lines of play. So you could put Force of the River on a Shugenja, bring out 4 Force of the River characters, and then have them all honored.
Yep.
So it's sort of like a pseudo Way the Chrysanthemum 4 honor boost, so to speak.
Yep.
So there's some exciting lines of play. It costs 3 influence, so to splash it might be a bit expensive.
So it may eventually
I'm glad
be.
they got it.
Yeah, I think maybe one day it becomes the cornerstone in Force of the River honor or some like specific honor deck. Otherwise, I guess if you're playing triple Suko, it may become a one-off.
I actually think it could actually find a place in Yurt Unicorn.
Oh, is it back? Is Yurt back?
I tried it. I tried it earlier today for listeners. I won by dishonor rather than honor, so I didn't know what to think. I think rebuild hitting the restricted list nerfed that deck completely.
Yeah.
But with this card, I could see myself going Lion Splash and then using the Force of the River trigger. Because like if you think about it, if you somehow found all 3 of Force of the Rivers and then you broke your military, like that's 12 honor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's quite strong in that context, but we're talking hypotheticals here, and I'm sure that's not really a likely outcome. But so those were the Lion spoilers.
Right.
So that's quite exciting there. We'll just quickly run through the Phoenix, and then we'll get to our 2 clans,
Oh,
Ben.
yes.
But these are exciting. So there's Phoenix got 3 cards spoiled. They got an event called Gift of Amaterasu, which is a spell fire, costs 1 fate. It says reaction after you win a conflict by 5 or more, choose a character you control and honor that character. Just quickly, Ben, what do you think about this honor effect?
Well, I like seeing the Sun God come into play. She's the mother of the Kami.
The art's quite
Yeah, I think the challenge is it's a reaction, so therefore you can't use KI to recur it. I think it will see as much play as Fallen in Battle, maybe slightly less.
I think it's like if you were a Phoenix player and you already would, there's a fair chance one of your characters is probably already honored as opposed to dishonored.
If you're going to win by that much.
Yeah. But it might see play. It's another honor effect.
Yeah, maybe. I also think it's kind of tough as well because it doesn't help you win the conflict.
No, but it Shrine Maiden can fish for it. Like, there's all these positives to it.
If there's something that keys off fire cards being played, similar to the way that not Ugina, what's her name? The military.
Uona.
Yeah.
So they also got an attachment band, and this is quite exciting. It's called Unmatched Expertise. It's a 0-cost attachment, +1/+1. Fire roll only, and it says attached character cannot become dishonored. Forced reaction. After attached character loses a conflict, discard this attachment.
I think it's godly.
This seems quite strong. Gaining +1 of each political type, each conflict type, as well as not being able to be dishonored. It's kind of terrifying on a Mitsu, if I'm honest.
It's a free +1/+1. Oh yeah, on a Mitsu. Yeah. If they ever get a fire roll again, which I'm sure they will.
If they ever get fire roll, that'd be quite scary.
Yeah.
I think Crane can explore it currently. It seems like just a good card for
Crane.
fire roll in general. Seems to be getting a few more cards that
it's
make
got
them quite good.
It's got, I guess, two negatives. One, that if you lose a conflict, it disappears, and the other one is that you're vulnerable to force shame. But apart from that, I think it's a great card. Like, I think it's a 0 cost +1/+1, which we haven't seen before, which is that's a big thing. Like, free cards need to be looked at.
I think also it kind of elevates the blood on the Tengu province, right? Because you can play this for 0. And I think also you're probably better off seeing it as an event that gives you +1/+1 and immunity to dishonor effects. Just consider it as an event, and then if you happen to win the conflict, it's like extra value.
God,
that's how I
always wanted to build a deck that uses Blood of Ujina. What's it called? Blood of Onatengu, the Moon God, Amaterasu's abusive husband.
Yes,
in a way that's not gimmicky, but like it's actually the deck's built around it.
It'd be really interesting because if you could build a deck full of 0 cost events and attachments, and your opponent's got all these big attachments. The problem is it's only when it's revealed, so you need more cards that flip them back face down, I think, to make it work.
Oh my god, is it only when revealed? Wow.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part.
Okay, let's just move on from that problem.
All right, so now the hype beast, the man himself, Isua Eugenia, 4 costs character, 2/4 stat line, Shugenja Void Elemental Master with 2 glory. Forced reaction: after the Void Ring is claimed, choose a character with no fate and remove that character from the game. It's unlimited, so it's each time a Void Ring is claimed, a character with no fate removes from the game. Ben, this card terrifies me as a crab player, especially.
Yes,
it's a very strong card, and I think it will find a. I think I've been waiting for a forecaster in Phoenix that kind of was a bit stronger than what they had offered already.
Yeah.
That wasn't as vanilla as, say, Prodigy of the Waves.
So he uses the term "removed from game," right?
Yeah.
So Iron Mine and Reprieve, I think they only protect against discard, right?
No, I think the removed from game is still leaf play, right?
Oh, I thought.
Sure.
So Iron Mine's not discard. Oh, when a character would leave play is Iron Mine, and Reprieve would leave play. Okay, still leave in play, so that'll still work. Yeah. I thought it was when a character is discarded.
But it's still good value, right? And so the synergies are is it all or nothing where you can change which ring?
Well, all of nothing is anti-synergy, right? Because that's when. Oh no, I think all of nothing doesn't that change the rings?
Doesn't it give? But you're still claiming the void ring.
We are terrible strategists.
Yeah, no, we need Wayne the. I thought that because it's the void ring still.
Let's have a look. I'm bringing the card out right now.
I'm pretty confident that the 5 coster that gives the ring void element triggers it.
Oh yeah, but that gives it,
Yeah. So there's all these ways that you can. Yeah. There's all these ways that you can trigger this effect more than once in a turn.
Katie's great. Yeah.
Yes.
And if I look at All or Nothing, which is just coming up on my screen, I think it's not called All or Nothing. What's it called?
Maybe you're right.
All and Nothing. When you would resolve the Void Ring effect, choose another ring, resolve that ring's effect instead. So
Correct.
It doesn't interact with that card.
It does because you can trigger. You can claim. You're still claiming the Void Ring, but you're getting a different effect. Right?
Yeah. So you claim the Void Ring and then use All or Nothing to resolve some other ring that you actually want.
Yep, and then you can still sack the character with no fate, which is awesome.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I think we're going to just speed ahead.
Let's quickly go.
We're going to speed ahead to the Scorpion cards, Ben.
Can we just do Komoko and then we'll cover? Because I think Komoko's worth talking about.
So Unicorn got another really strong card, as the spoilers have been indicating. Utaku Komoko. 4-cost character, 3/3 with 3 glory, Bushi Cavalry Battle Maiden, all phenomenal traits. While this character is dishonored, do not subtract its glory from its skill. Reaction: after an opponent breaks one of your provinces, choose and discard a card from your hand. Ready and honor this character. Ben, what do you think about this card?
This is godly. There was a deck called PCP, which Unicorn aficionados will remember very, very well. Province Crushing Ponies, and Komoko was like the character that the deck was built around, and she's back. I think that this card is absolutely unbelievable. It has all the right things. It's got a piece of text that apologizes for not being able to implement Glory correctly as a failed mechanic, unfortunately. But it's beautiful. Like, this thing is ridiculous. She's just unbelievable. She's got Cav, so you can Cav reserves her. You can do all of the things that are related to cavalry. She's got the Battle Maidens, so when that eventually becomes a thing, she's got, the Battle Maiden trait, which is awesome. I'm sure that will become a thing at some point. And Bushy, there's like a few cards that relate to that.
This for greater glory. So
and a 6/6 when on it. My God.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I think she's terrifying, and I think look out for her as we go in. Unicorn also got another character and an event. They're both quite exciting. We will cover them at another time. But Ben, for your clan, your favorite, we're a bit biased here on the podcast because Ben's obviously the Scorpion Hanamoto and top 32 at Worlds with Scorpion, and I'm just someone that plays Crab occasionally when it matters. The
winner
Scorpion
of
cards,
the 2018 Kote. Yes.
The Scorpion character, Ben, I'm quite excited for him. He's Shosuro Hamatsu, which is he's Kachiko's brother, I believe.
Yeah, and not a huge fan of her.
Yes. He's a 4-cost character. He's got 2/3 stat line with 1 glory. He's a daimyo and a shinobi, which is important. He has an action: lose 1 honor, dash, search your conflict deck for a poison card, reveal it, and add it to your hand. Shuffle.
Yeah, I think before we talk about Hamatsu, who I think has massive potential, may or may not be there yet. I think it's pretty close to. Let's just think about this. So I guess let's just talk about him. So couple of the stats are pretty crappy, but like that's in line with most Scorpion characters. We've got a couple of exceptions, like obviously Shoju is phenomenal and Aramoro is pretty good, and so is Boshi Liar, but a lot of the other characters are understated.
He's slightly better than the 4-cost Shugenja that they have also.
Yeah, exactly.
The plagiarist as well.
Illustrious plagiarist. Yeah. So a couple of cool things about him is that he's got a way of sometimes that action of losing an honor could turn your box on at just the right time to help close the game out. Anytime I see a card that says action lose an honor, I'm always thinking, all right, that's another potential way to help close games out. It's like a secondary effect that actually has some value. And has a tutor effect, which is awesome, like being able to search and get something. At the moment, the options for poison are okay, except for the next card we're going to talk about, which I think is better than okay. So I think great character. Disadvantages is this is a classic example of the diverging Scorpion strategies. The traditional way of playing Scorpion really values the Courtier trait. Shizuru Hamatsu doesn't have it, so it's as we start to see more Shinobi-based tech come into play. Eventually, at some point, it looks like we'll have a proper Shinobi-style deck that you don't need to run the Courtiers in, and don't run Forged Edict. It seems like blasphemy not to run Forged Edict, but yeah, I think diverging deck may not be quite ready, but maybe very close.
So really, you could play From the Shadows, right? So you spend 0 fate, get a 1/2 into a conflict, and then you lose 2 honor to tutor 1 card. So basically, there's very little substance value there. But based on the poison card that's in play that we'll talk about in a second, it could be quite useful because you could see a trigger. We'll talk about the next card, but I think there's actually a particular use for him that can be useful based on this next card. So we probably should have started with that one. So
Yeah.
there is a new poison card coming out called is it Kiriko or KK?
KK.
1 cost event for Scorpion, 3 influence, poison trait, and it has the reaction after a character your opponent controls triggers an ability. Dash bow that character. So we learned about the rules of Alpha, didn't we, Ben? We went to the rules reference guide.
Oh yes.
Because we didn't really follow how this works, and we found that there's steps for all triggered abilities. There's about 7 steps that you must go through, and we found out that at step 6 is when this reaction will interrupt, and step 6 is after all costs have been paid. So this bow effect cannot bow characters that use bow as part of their cost. So when we talk about that, we really mean
before abilities have been resolved.
Correct. So
Or
so
effects
like
have been
so
resolved.
so Spirit Caller, Benton's Touch, Spirit Caller or anything that requires a bow for their effect, that's a character in their cost, won't fire. So Spirit Caller can still bring back someone before they get bowed.
Do you want to just read the text just so folk know what we're talking about?
For the card?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So it says reaction after a character your opponent controls triggers an ability. Bow that character.
Dash bow that character.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this card's really strong. It makes players consider certain characters' usage. I think it's really strong in the mirror, Ben. For cards like the Plagiarist, I can't or like what's the other card?
Well, there's the Illusionist.
The
but there's a lot
Favored Niece. Favored Niece.
Yeah, Favored Niece. I think it's strong in a lot of decks against a lot of clans, but I think what it ends up becoming, much like Let Go, it's a card that people are going to consider baiting, right? So how do I bait them to use their Kiriko, right? Yeah. Because there's key abilities that people really want to use on their high-cost characters, like your Mitsus and Investigators, Kitsuki Investigators, and Shrewd Yosukis, and Brash Samurai, and all these different fantastic characters, right? But they don't actually. I think now there's going to be a bit of a game, because I think this will be fast to come. People will try it as a 3-of, then we'll probably move to a 2-of. Maybe it'll stay as a 3-of. It's really good. But, people are going to reconsider using abilities on their characters, and they're going to think long and hard about it. Now, at the moment, if you got a Shrewd Yusuke and you got a Holding in play, you hit that. You're never thinking about, someone reacting to your draw card ability. Yeah.
I think it is a good card for the game, and I think given the amount of dual actions that are coming out on characters in the upcoming set also, this is one card that provides an answer to those sort of duels. I think it's quite a good card. And I guess speaking of duelists, do we want to talk about the new well-studded Scorpion card, Ben?
Sure. I'll do the 10-second version of this because we've got a few crab cards we want to cover. 2-cost. Scorpion's got a lot of competition. The 2-cost bracket, but this is a 1/3 with 0 glory. The 0 glory is fantastic. It's a courtier and a duelist, so it makes test of skill better. I'm a huge fan of test of skill in Scorpion, so that's always good. And it's got a duel that blanks people. Blanking is a really powerful effect, so I think that's fantastic on all accounts. A political duel blanks people, can be used in a military conflict, which is fantastic. So I think the long story short, this character will absolutely see play. I think it is a fantastic 2-drop for Scorpion, and it'll be one of the many choices we have in that, and I think it's up there.
Yeah, no, and I think on the flip side, the Crab 2-coster, the Daring Challenger, which is a 2-dash, who's a Bushi duelist with 1, is unfortunately probably not as good as the Scorpion one. The short story of him is that he gets +1 while you're less honorable, and so for the majority of clans, you're already less honorable except for Scorpion. And he has the action during a conflict initiating a military duel, resolve the duel, and put 1 fate on the duel's winner. I think it's a really risky duel, and the only line of play I can see it working with is Stolen Secrets. So I get my Stolen Secrets for free off this guy if I win the duel. So I think that's quite interesting.
I just thought of one thing that may be relevant for this Daring Challenger, and I didn't quite read I can't remember off the top of my head the changes made in the rules reference guide, but it appears that there's some gang-up tactics that duels can involve more than two characters. So I wonder if you have somehow, if it's a reaction to add characters to a duel on one particular side, that if Daring Challenger, if they're all considered winners, I don't know if they are, I didn't read the ROG, but if they're all considered winners, then can you like actually put fate on all of the characters that are involved in that duel?
Yeah, I think it'd have to be a card that actually lets you make a duel work for more than one player. That'd be an interesting effect, though.
Yeah.
The other line of play I thought with this card was definitely Legion of One. I thought that was the other consideration. It's like really janky way of triggering Legion of One. Crab continued to get some 2-cost attachments in the spoiler list. They got a honed Nodachi, which is a weapon attached to a Bushi character only. So Bushi trait coming into effect here. It's restricted, and it has the reaction after attached character wins a military conflict. Remove 1 fate from attached character. Your opponent chooses a participating character he or she controls. Discard that character. What do you think of that card, Ben?
It's very, very polarizing. I've thought hard about it. It's restricted, so that's limiting. I think it's
time for war material. That's what it is.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. I dig that. I dig time for war material. Lose
the political and then win the military hard. That's the philosophy, I think, for this aggro sort of crab deck. I think it's kind of like your opponent chooses, right? And so we've seen that in that 5, the clan champion for Unicorn. How bad it is that your opponent chooses.
Yeah.
So if you were a keeper deck against this card, you just pick your keeper every time. You just go, well, I'll kill my keeper. So unfortunately, I don't know. It might see play in the future. Okay, I'm going to slow down now. Our last spoiler is the Yusuke Procurer. He is a 2/2 courtier. So Crab's, getting a bit more political. We endured some policy debates in 2018, and so we decided to bring our own characters to the forefront. He's got an action: dishonor this character, reduce the cost of the next attachment or character you play this phase by 1. What do you think of this card, Ben?
Well, I'm still a learner at Crab, so the things I like about it is I love cost reductions. Cost reductions are always very exciting. I love that it's 0 glory, so therefore if it becomes dishonored, and it looks like it will become dishonored because that's a cost of the ability, then it's not losing stats. With the current Crab decks that seem to be popular, it doesn't seem to fit in, but free watch commanders are pretty cool. The good thing is, just last thing, I'll hand it over to you, but the idea that it's not the attachment you play on the Procurer. So he can make a watch commander free or a spyglass or whatever you're playing on a different character that you care about on some big guy.
Yeah, or you can play your Nazumis or skirmishers. So, and your ambushes cost 1. So,
it's his character.
So I think the ambusher for 1 is probably my favorite use of him, because I found that ambusher at 2 is a bit too expensive. But I definitely pay 1 for a cloud, like a pseudo cloud for a conflict. Yeah. So, well, here's the thing, right? So back to that Kitsu Matsuri province, right? Like, isn't he one of the characters that can take use of it? So you dishonor and then honor him back up.
So would we say, are we saying that potentially that province that honors 2 characters is really, it's actually a, not only it can obviously reactivate this guy, and there's a few different things that require that, but it's like a dishonor tech card. Like, helps you survive a little bit longer against dishonored.
Yeah, definitely. Decks. I think so. I think I really like this guy, and I think all these spoilers are quite exciting. And I think Scorpion's the big winner from all these spoilers, and Unicorn. And I think Phoenix, Lion, and Crab all got 1 good card, in my opinion, at least. My one last thing I'll say is that you can play around this guy by putting the unmatched expertise that we discussed earlier. You can attach it to the to the procurer, and then he can't trigger his ability.
So you can attach the unmatched expertise to any character that has that's using effects that require dishonor as a cost.
Yeah, there's that dragon character that wants to you dishonor her instead.
Oh, Shono.
In an Unbower.
Yeah, so you've got Shono, you've got or whatever her name is. You've also got Calling in Favors. You've got Aramoro from Scorpion.
Calling in Favors is huge. That's an interesting line of play. But yeah, I think this set is really exciting. And sorry, listen, it took so long, but there was just so many new cards, and it'll be exciting to get our hands on them in about a month to look at them. I think it's nice to see Tyler's sort of stamp on the game continuing. I was thinking lately just how much it's obvious that he loves the game and how much he puts into it. It's really nice to see the shift in design, I think, in my opinion. I'm not sure if you share the same, Ben. But all these cards seem really interesting. Yeah, really interesting.
Absolutely. It's fantastic. Well, thanks everybody for listening to this listing tonight.
Marathon. Thank you for the marathon episode.
Yeah, that's what you get when you do spoilers, right? What I would ask is anyone, please feel free to leave reviews on iTunes. I hate to be the guy to ask that, but it actually helps people find the podcast. So when you type in L5R on the podcast app in your iTunes, ours will pop up if people have liked it or, added reviews. Some of you have done that, but it'd be nice if more than, one or two people had.
And feel free to join the conversation on Facebook at Hidden City Roller Derby. You'll also soon be able to find us at the Twitter handle, Hidden City Rollers. We have a website at hiddencityrollers.com, I believe is the name of the website, Ben.
That is it.
Yep, and we also will be posting on Reddit just to keep people in the loop. So you can find us on all platforms of social media, and we'd love to keep in touch and, hear all the cool things you guys have been up to and hear your takes on the cards and on the events. And we will be back here next week with a bigger group of individuals, hopefully including Toradori himself. And we promise to not have too much lion salt on the cast this year. It's one of the resolutions that we made to have no salt, only love. And so just contact any of those platforms and we'll get back to you.
All right. Keep on rolling, guys.